in the social media these days, how huge snakes are encircling linga somewhere in one temple and it comes at a certain time. Whatever, some things may be staged, but it is not an empty legend. There is sense to it, and they have, if you observe them closely, they have blocked off their right nostril with beeswax for one solar cycle, 12 and a quarter years, only one nostril breathing. Normally it'll kill you, because one way of noticing death is coming is your breathing will shift to just one nostril. It doesn't shift from one to another every 40 minutes as it should. It stays on one nostril, that means death is coming normally. But they use this process to rise above that, and he looks little freaky, but he has no beeswax in his right nostril. He is a man you should not miss. He is worth being with. All venomous creatures, I've noticed this with bees, the honeybees, the way they behave around me, many times I've noticed is very strange. And he's fine with me, but now I'm leaving him here as my garden predator.
You've already answered this, but let me ask even then. What's it with the Naga, the cobra? We are sitting in front of one. I have not been to the Isha Center in Bengaluru. I understand Naga is very important there. Nagas are very important to Shiva. So what is it with Nagas?
See, wherever there has been mysticism, wherever there has been extrasensory perception, there always the snake is. If you look at any ancient culture, if you look at African occult, it's full of snakes. If you look at Christian mysticism, even Moses is carrying a snake-like stick because he couldn't carry a cobra, by the time they took it from India, it would be dead. And they're in a desert. So, something related to the snake is always there. There's no Indian temple without a snake image. Wherever there is a Jyotirlinga, that means there is some cascade of grace, there is light for people, there will be a downward moving snake, at least one snake in the temple somewhere. All of them will be this way, one will be like this. Here in Dhyanalinga you see there are many downward flowing snakes because this is to indicate the cascade of grace. Here we have the advantage of being at the foothills of Velangiri mountains. It is called the Kailash of the south. Shiva himself, the legend says he spent over 3.5 months here in a very different kind of mood and mode. And so it acquired a very special quality and it bred a completely different kind of mysticism around this mountain. So we are in a cascade of grace and plus Dhyanalinga together, it is a big cascade of grace. And we are at 11 degrees latitude, which is very important because of the tilt that the planet has and the spin it has. The maximum amount of centrifuge happens at approximately 11 degrees latitude and we are sitting right on that right now. So that means there's a natural upsurge of energy, all this put together. About the snake, particularly about the cobra, I must tell you, there were times when earlier in my life, when I sat in the jungles around Mysore or in different parts of Western Ghats, I don't know why, because everybody traditionally they meditate either in the morning or in the night or in the evening. I always meditated in the afternoon. I don't know why, at that time I just meditated always in the afternoon. If I sit for a few hours and open my eyes, 12, 15 cobras would be sitting right in front of me. because they have this perception. The moment the energy shifts, they love it and they're there. So, about Adiyogi or Shiva carrying a cobra around his neck, it is a reptile, a crawly creature, it should be at least down there, but no, it's right up till here, right next to him. In a way, Shiva is making a point, he's as good as me in perception. Because perception is the core of yoga. Without perception, what do you know? If you were blind, how many things would you know? If you were deaf, how many things would you know? If you couldn't feel, how many things would you know? Just like that, perception is the basis of who we are right now. How profound is your perception determines how profound is your experience of life and how profound is your knowing. So entire thing is about perception. All sadhana is about enhancing your perception, not enhancing your knowledge. It's about enhancing your perception. When I walk on the street, I'm more ignorant than a village bumpkin. I know nothing, but my lights are on. Because you need to see, you don't have to think. Everybody thinks they need to think. Thinking means what? Recycling what little we already know. Waste of time. If you're thinking all the time, you must know you're just wasting away your life, recycling the same things that you have known for a long time. What you read, what you saw in your childhood, you're still thinking about it. What somebody said, you're still thinking about it. What you said, you're still thinking about it. Endlessly thinking means you're just recycling things that you already know. That means you're not interested in perception. You're trying to make something out of yourself. You do not still know the value of nothingness. You're trying to make something out of yourself. You're trying to build an image of what it is. So perception is the core of yoga. Perception is the core of mysticism. Perception is the core of tantra. Without perception, there is nothing. Everybody is perceiving what the eyes can see, but to perceive that everybody cannot see or fail to see is the important thing. So, for example, a cobra which is right now in Wellingary Hills, if there is going to be, not happening, if there is going to be an earthquake, let's say in California, I'm saying California because it's almost directly opposite on the other side of the planet, the cobra will start behaving in different ways. Right now in China, they have made an institute where to detect earthquakes, just observing snakes, if you just observe them, if you learn to read their movements and behavior, if there is going to be an earthquake, you already know. Because they are so sensitive, because they are stone deaf, they are ear to the ground, literally. You know, their whole body is to the ground, feeling every tremor. So it's not only about tremors in the earth, but they have a different level of perception. This perception gives them an extraordinary sense about certain energies. So naturally, you will see lots of videos going around in the social media these days, how huge snakes are encircling linga somewhere in one temple and it comes at a certain time. Whatever, some things may be staged, but it is not an empty legend. There is sense to it, because I'm telling you in my own experience, if I sit and become in a certain way, they would gather around me. This has been the experience of every yogi that they came. Many yogis always carried a cobra. So probably Moses heard about it from people who are going from here, because Indian traders and yogis have been going to that part of the world for over 8 to 10,000 years. To such an extent, cities were built just on the taxes that were levied on Indian traders, like Aleppo is one city which is unfortunately in ruins, Palmyra is another city. These were all built only on the taxes levied on Indian traders. To that extent, people who are going, traveling in those days over… Even if you take from Gujarat, which is the westernmost part of present India, It was nearly 3,000 plus kilometers or miles. And still people travel to that extent, streams of trading goods were going, and along with that yogis and mystics, everybody traveled. So having a snake will give you extra sensory perception, so people carried snake-like sticks and walked around. All these things are there, but the important thing is, there are because they're all young people, I hesitate to say certain things. Particularly in Himachal, also in some parts of Western Ghats, in the east, around Visakhapatnam, in that area, there are yogis who generally have… they may carry a cobra with them, but these days no. They usually have green glass bangles on their left hand. And they have, if you observe them closely, they have blocked off their right nostril with beeswax for one solar cycle, 12.25 years, only one nostril breathing. Normally it'll kill you, because one way of noticing death is coming is your breathing will shift to just one nostril. Doesn't shift from one to another every 40 minutes as it should. It stays on one nostril, that means death is coming normally. But they use this process to rise above that, to rise above one's mortality, to rise above the physical body, to sit here not being a body, so they block off their right nostril, breathe only through the left. So if you see a yogi like that, with bangles, green bangles on his left hand, and he looks little freaky, but he has no beeswax in his right nostril, he is a man you should not miss. He is worth being with. But if you see him…
So you mentioned this instrument that permits us to access this, whatever we call it, consciousness, intelligence, but you say it's for humans. So what do you think about animals and how they perceive the world?
See, when it comes to animals, an animal is programmed in such a way that largely its life is fixed around its survival process. Let's say, for any creature for that matter, their stomach is full, their life is settled, they just sit there happily. But that's not the nature of the human being. Stomach is empty, only one problem, stomach is full, 100 problems. This is the nature of the human being. Because survival is not the end game for us. Only when survival is taken care of, what is human kicks in. Till then, we are also just one more creature. When we are absolutely hungry and survival is in question, we are like any other creature. Human beings fight like any other creatures when survival is in question. Only when those things are taken care of, other dimensions of being human become a possibility. So survival is not the end game for us, it is the beginning for us. It is the A of life. But for all other creatures, survival is the end game for us. But even among them, certain creatures are far more capable of accessing or at least being sensitive. I wouldn't say accessing, they're little more sensitive to consciousness. Wherever there is consciousness, certain creatures behave in a certain way. In India, in the yogic culture, in the Indian mysticism, everywhere you see, there will be a cobra, always. Simply because we have always seen wherever there is a little bit of, access to consciousness, these creatures somehow sense it and they arrive. What makes them sense it? One thing I'm guessing, this is not a certain science for me, I'm just guessing because they're stone deaf. I think they're super alert and in some other sense, they're very, very alert. This is a fact, this has been checked by a few people. See, for example, a cobra in southern India, it has no ears at all, no hearing mechanism, so it has got the whole body to the ground and literally ear to the ground, So, if there is going to be an earthquake in California, which is literally 12 hours away, that means almost on the opposite side of the planet, If there's going to be an earthquake in the next 2 days or 3 days, this cobra will start behaving in a certain way. If you observe it carefully, if you have mastered that observation sufficiently, you can clearly tell that there is going to be an earthquake in approximately this kind of latitude. There are people who can do that. By simply observing the serpent, how it behaves, they say, there is going to be this kind of movement in some part of the planet. So, because any littlest, even the minutest vibrations in the planet, it is able to sense. So, because of this, it has a certain awareness or rather sensitivity to certain vibrations. Probably when somebody accesses what we are referring to as consciousness, the other vibrations which are normally everybody's throwing out on a day-to-day basis, their physical stuff, their psychological stuff, probably that becomes minimal. Lack of that reverberation is something that a cobra senses. If you become very meditative, you sit in a forest and become meditative, cobras will gather in front of you. They will come and sit there as if they're waiting for you. This is my personal experience any number of times, and this will be vouched for by any number of yogis in the tradition always, because they're able to sense that lack of vibration in the person. When the vibrations become very minimal or very fine, somehow they're drawn to that. All venomous creatures, those which create venom in their system, all of them are able to sense this. Probably, I'm just doing guesswork here, it's just guesswork. See, some creature generates venom within itself as an evolutionary process, probably because in some way his physical features and things are such that without a deadly venom he wouldn't have survived. He is constantly threatened. So, because he's feeling so threatened, it's also true in human beings. Those who are feeling always threatened, they will carry a lot of venom within themselves. So looking at human behavior, I'm just guessing, maybe in the evolutionary process, because they don't have limbs, let us say the snakes don't have limbs, they don't have the same capabilities that other creatures have, so they might have developed venom over a period of time, because otherwise they wouldn't have survived, otherwise they wouldn't have got food to eat, everything around them moves faster, but still they manage to hunt and live only because of the venom that they carry. All venomous creatures, I've noticed this with bees, the honeybees, the way they behave around me, many times I've noticed is very strange. In the beginning when it happened, I couldn't believe how these insects seem to be sensing something which nobody else, human beings don't know most of the time, but they're able to see it. I've generally noticed this with all venomous creatures, because to generate that venom, there is some special process going on within them. From what I hear from other scientists and people who are working in the field, they're saying venom is one of the most complex proteins that are produced on the planet, and today for various neurological ailments, the experiments are going on how venom could be a solution in the future, because in my personal experience, consuming venom has done miracles to me in terms of rejuvenating my body and doing things with myself in so many different ways. There are certain type of yogis who always carry these mountain scorpions which are almost like 9 inches long in a box. Once in a way, they will decide when, they will take a sting from the scorpion, your whole neurological system will jangle. It'll go for 24 hours to 48 hours. It won't let you sleep, it will just keep you up. And between pain and pleasure, there is very little distinction. Once the neurological system gets tangled, like jangled in a certain way, you can make it into pain, you can make it into pleasure consciously. So they will cry, they will laugh, they will cry, they will laugh, they will go through this for whole 24 to 48 hours, because they're using the venom to just shake up the whole neurological system. So having said that, somewhere certain creatures have little more access to these things. They may not have access to consciousness, but where there is access to consciousness, they're able to sense that. In my understanding, or I would rather say my presumption, is that that they're able to mark out those creatures or those bodies who are least amount of reverberations in them. Where there is least amount of reverberation is like a little bit of a vacuum for them, so they are drawn towards that, and at the same time they will not harm that, that kind of reverberation because they feel very passive. There is a video where I'm holding a king cobra, not by the head, but in the body. It is not a pet cobra or something. We've just caught it 2-3 days before that is being filmed there. And king cobra, if it bites you, you have 6 to 8 minutes to live, that's it. It has enough venom to kill an elephant, but it will not bite. If you show a little anxiety, it'll bite you. If you are just absolutely calm, it will not touch you because it's going by the reverb that you generate. People are saying, how do we know, Sadhguru, we are really meditative and at ease? I said, we must do a cobra test for you. If you just pick it up, if he just comes, you're at ease. If he reacts, that means you're not at ease. I don't know, one picture came for a moment in that video where I'm holding a king cobra. You saw that one? A king cobra, I think no, not in this, it didn't come. I think the king cobra was on the ground. There's another picture where I'm holding a king cobra halfway down and he's just like that. A king cobra is a snake that if it bites you, it'll just hardly give you 20 to 40 minutes, you'll die within that. A regular cobra, it bites you, because you say they have snakes, I'm giving you some knowledge. It mainly, the cobra venom affects your cardiovascular system, it gives you anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. If you don't get excited, you may get another 1 or 2 hours extra. If it bites you in the body, you will have 4 to 5 hours. If it bites you in the limb, you may get 6 to 8 hours time. But if a viper bites you, you have much less time. If a banded carrot bites you, you have just 1.5 to 2 hours. Because one venom attack affects your neurological system, another venom affects your cardiovascular system. What it is doing to you is your blood gets thicker, so you can't breathe. And everything gets tough because the heart will start pumping in a certain way because the blood gets thicker and thicker, coagulation happens across the body. Why I'm saying this to you is, the nature of the venom gives him that. Venom is not only in his sac, he's producing it in his entire body. Today, there's so much research gone into the medical sciences, you will see in the next 5 to 10 years' time, almost all neurological ailments will be treated with cobra venom, snake venom and scorpion venom and spider venom. And some sea snakes which have very special kind of venoms, which could kill you in 5-10 minutes. So, a lot of research has gone in. Almost for every neurological problem that people are going through, like Parkinson's and memory losses, all this they're going to treat with venom. Still it has not been approved, but much research has gone in this direction. So it knows your chemistry so well. The beautiful thing about this is, there was a time when I'm sitting in some jungles in the Western Ghats, you guys are on the east, but you must come to the Western Ghats, that's a real jungle, okay? It's a rainforest. If I'm sitting and meditating, normally I don't know why, now I'm wondering why I sat in the afternoons, but I always sat in the afternoons, not early mornings. Afternoon I sit for meditation and I'm like sitting for 5-6 hours. When I open my eyes, a dozen snakes are sitting here. They're just drawn to that chemistry. When your chemistry changes, they just know and it comes. This is why Adiyogi is shown with a cobra on his, around his neck, to indicate that he is meditative, he is still within himself. If you become still within yourself, you pick up the cobra, simply it'll come like that. So, we can give you a cobra test or we can send people from our yoga center who will train you how to handle. Suppose a snake came inside, how to take him and leave him in his habitat. He's come here not because he want to listen to the lecture, for the conversation or the air conditioning, he's not come for anything that you have come for. By mistake, he's entered. You just have to let him back there. For this, little bit beyond fear you must be to take it, but without training, if you take it, you could endanger your own life. Snakes are among the most wonderful creatures, but unfortunately, in human societies, they got a lot of bad press, just like me. So, and he's fine with me, but now I'm leaving him here as my garden predator to take care of many things for me. So, he's going to be part of the house and live here with me in some way. So, letting him go, all the best. That's it, he vanished.